Distant Horizons, a legendary Minecraft mod that with no doubt probably saved many PCs from overheating while playing Minecraft on pretty high render distances thanks to its level of detail, aka LOD system that decreases the quality of the chunks that are really far away from you instead of rendering them in full quality, which is basically what Minecraft does. But what if I told you that Distant Horizons has now a pretty solid competitor that might just replace it because it's better than Distant Horizons in some aspects, and most importantly, it may give you better performance than Distant Horizons in some ways. Let me introduce you voxy. Now, what is voxy and how is this mod better than Distant Horizons, you might ask? Well, voxy is a level of detail mod that was created by Cortex, the creator of NVIDIA. In case you somehow don't know what NVIDIA is also a great optimization mod for those who wanna play on high render distances, since it properly utilizes your NVIDIA GPU rendering pipeline, enabling very fast and performant geometry cooling of terrain, meaning that you can calmly play Minecraft on high render distances without having much lag. Moving forward, the main difference between these two mods is that Distant Horizons aims to render LODs with the help of your CPU, utilizing it basically every time you render the chunks that are far away, but voxy uses your GPU instead, which in my opinion is a better decision since Minecraft is a more CPU intensive game and adding more tasks for the CPU isn't a good idea when you have the GPU, which almost isn't being used at all while playing Minecraft unless you play with shaders. Also, it's important to mention that voxy uses a little different type of LODs. Let me show you this image. This is an example of how Distant Horizons renders the LODs, and this is how voxy renders it. See the difference? While Distant Horizons are just turning the block's resolution to its absolute minimum, voxy aims to sort of compress the blocks, turning them into whatever I should call it. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna compare both voxy and Distant Horizons between each other to see which one is better and which one should you prefer. I'm gonna do a short comparison comparing the performance side and LOD generation, and also it's important to mention that I use the best quality preset for the LODs in each mod to achieve the most realistic looking results, I guess. Anyways, here are my PC specs, full information about my GPU. Also, I'm gonna use Minecraft version 1.20.4 and 32GB of allocated RAM, and here are the versions of the mods and mod loaders that I've used. And lastly, I'm gonna use 32 chunks of regular render distance and 256 set in the mods. Now, without further ado, let's come to the tests. Alright, now the test that I'm gonna do is very simple. I'm gonna see which mod is gonna generate the territory around me faster on the same seed, same position, while also benchmarking pretty much everything. So the Distant Horizons mod took about 45 minutes to generate the territory around me, while voxy can't generate the chunks which are above the normal render distances. It can only render them but not generate, which is a massive downside of this mod. Instead, I decided to simply fly around the territory and generate the chunks by myself. I wish I knew it before I did the test with Distant Horizons. Anyways, as we can see on the benchmarks, Distant Horizons was pushing my RAM to the absolute limits, utilizing every single gigabyte that I allocated for Minecraft and somehow even more, while voxy was using only about 9 to 10 gigs even when I was generating new chunks. However, that was at the cost of my GPU, which was utilized by its maximum on the voxy mod. And also, I was having a bit more frame rate on voxy rather than on the Distant Horizons mod, while having a bit lower 0.1 and 1% lows. What I really like about voxy is that it uses a better looking system of LODs in my opinion, in which you can better see and tell what is going on in the distance, while on the Distant Horizons mod all of the blocks look kinda bad with their low resolution. But I think it's just a matter of preference, because both look good, but voxy is just a bit better in my opinion, because from the far you can't really tell that you are using a LOD mod unless you just zoom in. And after doing this short comparison, I can come to the conclusion, since I really don't know what else I can compare with these mods. Is voxy really better than Distant Horizons? Well, in my opinion, actually no, it's not. The biggest downside of voxy in my opinion is that it basically can't generate the chunks that are above the normal render distances, as I mentioned earlier. Not only that, it also doesn't have the below proper shader support which Distant Horizons have, and it works pretty amazing in my opinion. The only good thing that I could find about voxy is that voxy doesn't use that much RAM like Distant Horizon does. And after all of that, would I prefer using voxy? In my opinion, we should give the developers some time in order to create a stable working version of the mod, since it is still in the alpha and the mod overall is only 5 months old. But even in the alpha stages, this mod does a surprisingly good job in rendering LODs while keeping the game at a pretty stable frame rate. But even so, I personally wouldn't prefer this mod. yet, unless you have like not that much RAM or a pretty weak CPU, but beside that, this mod has no other advantages over Distant Horizons. So I think Distant Horizons is still a better LOD mod, even though I think that Voxy has a really big potential in the future since it is doing a really good job as a new Minecraft mod. Subscribe.